Was today nothing more than a stock market trap where we see the S&P 500 screaming to the upside, the fear and greed index still in extreme fear territory. As Bostic says, rate cuts ahead, but no recession. Today was a great day in the market. If you're a buy-side trader, look at how many consecutive up candles we had. And this is even more evident when we come over here and we look at the NASDAQ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 up candles in a row. Then we close right near the session highs. So what is this set up for tomorrow? Today we had a 484 point range. Are we going to get a D-shaped profile or will the news tomorrow have the stocks come crashing lower? Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., we have CPI coming out, or should I say CPI? Today, 8:30, we had the PPI come out and it came in much better than expected, which kind of stoked a lot of the rally out there today. However, if you're trading Starbucks, you're probably very happy with the news out here. Starbucks stole Chipotle's CEO. If we come over and look at the two companies real quick, we start off looking at Starbucks. Starbucks rocket ship to the moon, up 24.47%. Then we look at Chipotle, yikes, a little bit of a haircut, down 7.5%. But notice Chipotle now has basically a triple bottom-ish pattern sitting down here near these lows. Then we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board. The Dow was up 408 points. The NASDAQ was up 407 points. S&P 500 was up 90 points. The Russell 2000 was up 3.27 points. And if we look at advancing issues versus declining, we had 78% of issues advancing for the day. Then we look at the sectors. The only sector in the red was actually energy, which is actually good for us at the pumps. We know that crude oil had a big day out there yesterday. And then today, we're just basically coming down here just a bit. Now, is this the calm before the storm? And what I mean by this is we still have the problem with Iran and Israel going on in the Middle East. I suspect that if indeed there is going to be any action over in the Middle East, it's probably going to occur sometime between 7 p.m. Eastern time and 10 o'clock Eastern time. That's just my gut feeling. And I'm not saying it's going to be tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe it's the next week. Maybe it's never. But tonight during Asia, we want to be on high alert. And speaking of the Asia session, I want to remind you guys, I stream live Monday through Thursday, 8:45 p.m. If you'd like to join me, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button down below and make sure you have the bell notifications turned on for all. But essentially, Iran is still rejecting Western calls for refrain from attacking Israel. And we're going to see, do they basically, bow down and basically don't do anything? I don't think that's going to be the case. They've said they are going to seek retaliation. And I do believe them when they go ahead and say that. Now, we look at this article right here. Stage set for a mild increase in consumer prices as Fed readies rate cuts. Traders see big drop in interest rates into 2025 as risk of underestimating inflation. Now, we come over here and we look, and we can basically see that the market is pricing in aggressive rate cuts moving on forward. From September on, the market is pricing in the Fed is going to be actively cutting rates. Now, I want you guys to remember something. The Fed is not cutting rates out of the goodness of their heart. They're only cutting rates because they know something is already broken in the economy. So then we look at the fear and greed index today, and we saw most of the issues out there advancing for the day. So why is the fear and greed index still in extreme fear? We would think that after a day like we saw today in the stock market, this would actually be able to at least get over into fear, if not, closer towards the neutral territory. Well, for that answer, we come over and we take a look at the VIX. The VIX today absolutely getting destroyed, down 12.89%. And now we're getting into territory where the VIX being down more than 10% could indicate that tomorrow or the following day is likely going to be a down day in the market and a volatility spike in the VIX. Now, do you guys agree with that statement or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. We come over and look at the dollar index today. Dollar index was on the way lower as well. Never made it back to the structure breakdown point. However, the S&P and NASDAQ made it to some critical levels today, in which we'll talk about here in just a bit. Now, with the dollar, is this going to set a higher low, or are we going to go ahead and make a substantially lower low? Now, a weaker dollar normally favors the bulls in the market. Then when we couple this with the price of gold, gold today was only up 2.9 points. And for all intents and purposes, gold didn't really move in a big way up and out. Is it waiting for the stage to be set for tomorrow once that CPI data is released? Today, Boston was speaking and Atlanta Fed's Bostic sees rate cuts ahead, but no recession. So again, they're still pounding the table. We're going to have a soft landing, a no landing. There is nothing to worry about. Everything is great out there. However, if everything is so great, then why did we see in pre-market when Home Depot came out with their earnings that the stock was actually lower? However, since a rising tide lifts all boats, we saw it was able to regain its footing and actually close up 1.23%. But earlier today, which I talked about in this morning's video, Home Depot was talking about consumer demand along with the builders' demand moving forward. They're very concerned with that. So is that a sign of a thriving economy? I think not. Then we come over and look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA had a little bit of a rocket ship today, up 6.53%. We take a look at SMCI, which I haven't looked at here in a couple of days. That was also up 4.89%. I think we're going to be hard pressed to find many stocks were actually down. Google was up 1.21%. And we take a look at Microsoft, big push out there, up 1.77%. But notice with a lot of these stocks, you can see now we're starting to fill some of those gaps from last week. We look at the small caps, for instance, and the Russell 2000 still has not been able to fill even one of the gaps out here from last week. I want to make everybody aware, Apex 7A massive 80% sale off all their valuation accounts, passing as little as 1 day. And you can also get a 150K account for only $40. You get a 250K account for only $40. You get a 300K account for only $40. So if you want to take advantage of this offer, use the link in the description box down below and use the promo code Mike at checkout. We jump over and take a look at the diamonds real quick. What do we see? Well, diamonds finally were able to close one of the gaps from last week, but now we gotta ask ourselves, all right, how deep is this retracement going to be? We basically made it through the 38%. We're coming up towards the 50. Can we make it all the way up to 61.8 or potentially fill the secondary gap above us tomorrow? If the market has a very positive reaction to that CPI data, that's exactly what could be about to unfold. Now, as we come and look at the NASDAQ has now filled both of the gaps that we had left behind from last week. And if we go ahead and we measure from the lows up here towards the highs, the NASDAQ has already recovered almost 10% when we're looking at the QQQs. Now notice we're going to be coming into a critical level. One, it's going to be above the 50% level, but two, we have this minus development area within the profile. That could be an area where we see the market start to pull back. But wait, we also have two gaps above us from when the downturn started back in July that maybe the NASDAQ is going to try to make its way back up. Now, I would have preferred right around this area over here that we turned and started to make a double bottom or a higher low situation. But again, the market doesn't care about what we want to see. On the 4-hour chart, MACD indicator still looks extremely strong. And you can see we made it all the way to this next high volume area. We basically said, you know what, that minus development area, let's just gap above it. We don't want to have to worry about it. And that's exactly what transpired today. We look out here on the 1-hour chart, MACD indicator still crossing to the upside, had a little bit of a kiss right here, and then said, you know what, let's keep moving on up. Then out here on the 30-minute chart, this has me a little bit concerned. The MACD indicator starting to roll over. We had an extremely strong day out here today, and the fact that we have a large gaping gap. Now, do I think that gap is going to be filled tomorrow? One, I think it depends on the Middle East. Two, what is the market's reaction to tomorrow's CPI print? Now, tomorrow, one of the areas we do want to watch is going to be this minus development area. If indeed we start to see signs of weakness, we'll call that 458.30 or even up here towards about 460.93. As we come over and we look at the futures markets real quick, we saw today one heck of a move on the way up. We had 12 consecutive up candles on the 30-minute chart. Then as we look at the 4-hour chart, notice we were able to take out the value area low that was not tested from 2 weeks back, which again, that rule said that either last week or this week we would test it. Well, here we are on Tuesday. We've already taken that level out. We were also able to take out the point of control as well. So now the question is, how much further are we going to go? Can we make it towards this next high volume area, or are we going to make it all the way into this minus development area over here to the right? We look out here on the daily profiles, and again, we have a wide range today, 494 points. We have value area high coming in at 19,120.75. The point of control down here about 19,068.25. Value area low would be about 18,877.25. So how do I want to play this? Well, one, we know the bulls are been intact, but I do anticipate tomorrow is more likely than not going to be a D as in dog shape profile. Now that is barring anything over in the Middle East. And what that would mean is we probe a little bit higher, we probe a little bit lower, and we just form a D as in dog shape profile, back and forth. Think about it, nothing more as a day of consolidation in the markets. Now, as we come over and we look at the SPY, we got to ask ourselves, is this nothing more than a trap? You can see we're able to clear the minus development area. We saw no interaction at that level. And I was watching for a potential reversal at that area. We basically gapped right into the middle of it, and we just kept pushing on up throughout the entire day. MACD indicator is trying to cross to the upside, and we'll see if the news tomorrow will be enough to get the cross intact and continue to push on up higher. We look at the SPY, however, and we measure from the low right up here to the high today, and now we've pushed off the lows about 6% or so. So the question is there a trap laying up above? All right, so do we come up and essentially fill the gap over here, or is there a trap lurking somewhere near this high volume area? And we see the market starting to come back down, potentially setting up a higher low situation. I know a lot of people are going to be looking for a double bottom, which I was too, but you know, the further we push away from this low, the less likely I think it is for the double bottom pattern to form. If we are going to come back down there and form a double bottom, we need to hurry up and make it down there in a hurry. We come over and we look at the 4-hour chart. What do we see? MACD indicator lines look extremely strong at this moment. I see no weakness on the 4-hour chart. Now, one thing I am a little bit concerned with is the gap from today. However, if you look over here to the left, you can see we've now almost filled 2 of the gaps. We might have filled this gap today, very close. If not, we missed it by a couple ticks or so. On the 1-hour chart, MACD indicator, good separation of the lines, 45-degree angle on the way up. And you can see today on the 1-hour chart, every single candle was green on the session. On the 30-minute chart, we had the gap up and we had very few down candles for today. Everything was up, 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 up and away. Now, when we look at this, the MACD indicator is starting to have me concerned. 1, we're elevated above the 0 line. 2, the lines look like they may want to cross and pinch to the downside. So tomorrow it's going to be critical. You can see all along this area, anywhere from 540 down to about 538 or so. You know, we don't have a lot of structure in this market. It was just chugga, 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 chugga. We don't have a lot of volume that was built out on today's profile. We'll talk about that in tomorrow morning's video. We look out here on the 4-hour chart. What do we see? Well, we've been talking about this ABC pattern being completed. That level has been taken out. We've been talking about this untested value area low. That level has now been taken out. And now if we look right over here, what do we see? We are entering a minus development area. Unless we see more conflict over in the Middle East or the market has a very negative reaction to tomorrow's CPI print, I just don't know that we're going to have a meaningful correction on the way back down. But you know, just when we think we can't get a correction could be when it's about to unfold. Normally, once we complete an ABC pattern to the upside, the market does something other than continue up. Now, that could be a consolidation, which is kind of what we talked about with the D-shaped profile with the NASDAQ. You can see we close right near value area high at about 5461.25. We have the point of control at 5446.50, value area low coming at 5412.50. So how do I want to play this? Well, 1, I do think we're going to probe a little bit higher tonight or tomorrow. And then I do think we settle in with a D as in dog shaped profile. And then we'll see what is going to be in store after that. I want to see how the CPI print comes out. How does the market react to that? And more importantly, fingers crossed, nothing happens over in the Middle East tonight. Now, if you guys want to learn 2 ways how to identify absorption in the markets using order flow, watch this video right here.